Hi, I'm Renee Romeo, and today I'm reupholstering an inexpensive footstool. I have some fabric left over from my previous sofa project, and I could use a little footstool in my space. So I know a lot of us have passed these over in the past if you've seen them at the store because they're so generic in their upholstery and they're just not special looking. So what I'm going to do is take some scrap pieces from that project and apply it to this little footstool. I also have some trim left over that I'll apply to the edges. I have the footstool flipped over upside down, and there are 4 screws here holding it in. So I'm going to take my screwdriver and remove them. And it exposes what they call a dust cover. So this dust cover has to be removed. We're taking off all of the upholstery because it's not a good idea to leave old upholstery on and simply go over it. Your new fabric will wear a lot quicker, and you won't get professional results with trying to fold things over on the corners nice and tight. So we're going to go ahead and remove all the fabric. The method for removing staples is to take your staple remover with this V-shaped tip, get it up underneath the staple, and lift it out and twist it, and it'll come right out. And I'll do it again. Get it up underneath, twist it, and it'll come right out. Okay, now all my staples are removed. I'll remove this black dust cover, set it aside because we'll be using it later. And that exposes a couple of problems with what's going on underneath here. This is not the correct way to upholster. They've left all this excess fabric at the corners, and it probably led to the cushions sitting in the frame unevenly. And there are a million staples in here, so certainly overkill. So I'll go ahead and take all those off, and we'll look and see what's going on with the cushion underneath. Okay, I've shed a little bit of blood, and I have an enormous pile of staples for a project this small, but I've gotten them all out. And what it exposes is, I'll just peel this fabric away, and you can kind of see that they don't have anything layered between the foam and the fabric, and you really should do that because that'll also help with wear, and it'll fill it out a little nicer. So I'm going to set this fabric aside and go and get a small piece of polyester batting and then cover that. I have about a ½ yard of this polyester batting. It's about 3/8 of an inch thick. Doesn't need to be real thick. And I'm just going to fold it over onto this wooden piece and staple it with just a few staples. Now I've clipped the fabric at the corner, and you're going to be folding it very much like you would if you were wrapping a gift. So you're going to pull it in, and you're going to make a nice straight piece on the corner and then staple it in place. Now, since I have a striped fabric, I really have to make sure that the stripes line up along the edge of the cushion, and they look good. So what I'm going to do at this point is make sure that this fabric is pulled nice and tight around this cushion, and then I can go ahead and staple it in. So I thought it would be a good idea to show you how I get these corners just perfect. I'm going to take a staple and I'm going to temporarily put it in the corner. So I have this piece of fabric here that I can pull straight out from it and pull it nice and tight and put a staple in that direction. And you'll notice it's sticking up a little bit so I can get to it after. I work on the side first, and I pull this nice and tight, sort of like wrapping a present, so that I can get this nice crease in here right at the corners right about here, and I'm going to pull this up to the corner and staple it in place. And now you can see nicely with the stripe there that I'll get it all evened out as I go. And I'll leave it like that for a second and work on this side. So this is the front face. And this front face I want to line up with the corner. Takes a little bit of finessing, but as you can see, now I have this nice little peekaboo corner here, and I can staple that in place. I've trimmed off all of the excess fabric on the corners and along the edges, making sure that I end the fiber fill at a different spot than the fabric itself. Otherwise you'll cause bunching underneath the piece. So at this point I could take my dust cover fabric, place it over the top, and staple that in place. The cushion is completely finished, back and front. So now I'm going to move on to working on the frame. I have a piece of welt cord that I made, and I simply made it by purchasing a piece of cotton cording and cutting out some fabric from my existing fabric and taking the cording, placing it inside of the fabric, and then running a stitch line very close to that cotton cording on the outside. So what I come up with is something that looks like this. It's got a 1/2 inch lip on it that I can place inside this metal frame. As you can see, the welt cord is glued in place all along the inside edge of this stool. So now I'm going to work on the corner. And what I have, I've trimmed off the end piece so that it fits directly into this corner, just shy about 1/8 of an inch. And now this other piece is going to come around. I have opened up the inside portion of it and clipped off that cotton cording on the inside. Now this piece, it's cut straight. So what I really need to do is cut it at a 45-degree angle. So now that that's done, I can slip this piece over the top of the other piece, tuck it in, and put a piece of glue, or put a section of glue in, and get that all tucked in. And I'll come inside and glue the rest. Pulling it nice and tight. Everything's lined up all the way around. It did take a little bit of force to get it in there, but I'm going to go ahead and put the screws back in. The very last thing that I need to do is attach this decorative tassel trim to the bottom metal edge. And so I have to start out right at the edge here, not with a tassel, but with this kind of decorative thread. And I take it and I put a bead of glue along the inside edge just to get it started. And I'll start just to the inside of the corner. And you always want to glue along your trim instead of putting the glue on the piece. You'll have a lot more control that way. So as I come to my finishing corner, I have clipped off this very last tassel. And the way that's going to line up, it'll line up pretty well. But what I need to do is finish this off because as you can see, it's fraying a little bit on the end. So I run a bead of glue just along the inside, and then I fold this little piece over so it's a nice finished edge along the end. And then I simply glue the inside and press it over. I hope you've enjoyed watching this video on how to reupholster a small footstool, and that you'll take these techniques away with you and maybe find a project around your home, such as a bench top or dining room chairs, and go ahead and attack them and feel confident enough to get it done properly and professionally. And so until next time, this is Renee Romeo. Thanks for joining me.